Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that my clients have had or that you've been asking online. This one kind of just comes with the season. I know it's spring, almost summer, and one of the things that I'm getting a lot of comments on, a lot of illness going around and people wondering, why do I just keep getting sick? There's a lot of things that can happen in that situation, and there's some real scientific things that we could talk about, but I'm trying to make it super, super simple and give you a couple of great tips to really try to ward off getting sick. I found one of the interesting side effects of eating extremely clean and healthy at this point in my life is that rarely do I get sick, which I find fascinating because, for most of even my adult life, man, I just would get sick all the time. But at this point, rarely do I get sick. And the only time I do tend to get sick is when I really am just overdoing it. I'm not giving my body enough rest. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But I see that people are popping on. Hello to everybody tonight. Hopefully the weather where you are is just fabulous. I'm so ready for summer. But back to talking a little bit about being sick. Now, there's a lot of angles to this. I just really want to talk about when it comes to health, what your best options are and what to be looking at when it comes to trying to have a really good and robust immune system. The first thing I really quickly want to talk about is just when you're doing too much. A lot of times, I think in this day and age, because we all think, I don't know about you, but I think I'm Superwoman. I really believe I can do all these crazy things and I don't tend to give my body enough rest and recovery. And so when that happens, I do start to feel run down and I start to have issues. So the first thing that you need to look at, if you are having an extended illness or you find that you're getting sick time and time and again, maybe you're catching what your kids keep coming home with. And of course, our kids are in different schools and they're, they don't tend to, their hygiene doesn't tend to be as good if we haven't taught them to wash their hands before they eat and those kind of things. So we tend to take on the pathogens and the bacteria that they tend to bring home. And then if we're not in our best optimal shape when it comes to our health and nutrition, we can really just continuously get sick over and over again because they're just constantly bringing home different sicknesses. So, make sure that if you tend to be getting sick quite a bit, make sure that you're not overdoing it, that you are getting the rest and recovery and sleep that you need. I find that as adults, we tend to not value sleep enough. And that can be a huge downfall, not only towards rest and recovering and staying healthy, but also even towards reaching your goals. I just read an article with some amazing research that talked about your quality of sleep or lack thereof can actually have a greater effect on reaching your weight loss goals than your nutrition can. So if you're not getting the amount of sleep that you need in order to support your body and its functions, the nutrition part, although important, is not quite as important as making sure that you're getting, that 7 to 8 hours of sleep that you need. Now, I know that's hard. I work with people and I've had my own issues with getting enough sleep and enough quality sleep at night. There are things that you can do. There's some great books out there, how to hack your sleep, topic for another time, but if you hop on and look at Anna Huffington's book, the Huffington Post, there's a couple of really great books. The Circadian Code is one of them that can really tell you how to kind of get a better amount of sleep. So Monty says that stress gets in the way of sleep. Yes, it does. I'm going to agree with that. As adults, there are things that we have to learn to do in order to kind of push that stress aside in order to get the sleep that we need. I learned, and I talked about this not too long ago, on a Facebook Live, I do a brain dump every night. So I have a nice little notebook that is my brain because my brain gets going in too many directions. And every night I literally write down everything that I'm concerned about, need to think about the next day, the list of things to do, what my priority lists are. And I go to bed not thinking about that. Now, I'm not going to lie, every once in a while I wake up a little stressed because there's crazy things going on in life. But in general, I've really learned I know that sleep is so important. And I spent too many years doing about 5.5 hours of sleep, really detrimental to my body. So make sure that if you're struggling with trying to stay healthy, you've been sick multiple times, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're getting plenty of rest, take vacations. That's probably my biggest one recently is I'm not very good at taking days off. I love what I do. I love working with people. And so a lot of times, working when you own your own business, you tend to work a lot of crazy hours to make it work. And I'm not always great at making sure that I'm taking days off. And that's important too. You got to be able to shut it off. So I'm teaching myself, right? And then chronic stress can actually be a huge issue with getting sick. And you may be able to look back on your life and relate some of these things, go, wow, there was this major family issue at this time, and man, I just was sick all the time. So chronic stress can cause that because it wears down our immune system. It really wreaks havoc on our body. We release too much cortisol too often, too regularly, and that can become a problem as well. Cortisol is technically our friend. It does great things for us, but too much of it too long can cause some chronic issues. And one of them is just wearing down your immune system, which is a big deal. There's a couple of really easy ones, things that we should have learned in kindergarten. Obviously, if you're getting sick a lot, make sure that your hygiene is good, you're washing your hands. They do say that a lot of, what's this? The stuff that we use when we go to the doctor's office. The antibacterial stuff can actually kind of backfire on us because not only does it get rid of the bad bacteria, but can actually get rid of the good bacteria as well. So be careful with that. I mean, obviously doctor's offices and things, they have to use it. I totally don't blame them. They've got to keep things clean. But be reasonable. It's kind of the same thing with, I think we've been given antibiotics too often. And the downside to antibiotics when we have an issue, whether it's trying to get rid of something viral is not going to help, but trying to get rid of bacteria is not only does it kill the bad bacteria, but it also kills all the good bacteria. We want that balance, and of course we're talking about the microbiome, which I'm going to approach again in a minute. But the optimum bacteria balance that we want in our system is approximately 85% good bacteria, 15% bad bacteria. The good bacteria is supposed to keep down the bad bacteria, and there's supposed to be a balance there. The problem is sometimes that bad bacteria gets out of hand. So staying clean, really limiting your exposure to other people that are infectious that's common sense, but sometimes I realize that we don't always know or pay attention. So just, being a little more on top of things is really important. The one that we can't, and the antibiotics, obviously. By the way, there are ways to kill bad bacteria without taking antibiotics. I'm not saying they're not required or not necessary, because in some cases they absolutely are. But there are more naturopathic options when it comes to killing off the bad bacteria. We've actually been through that a couple times in my household. We've had some gut dysbiosis. We've had to work with that. Not a bad option to contact an integrative specialist that deals specifically with the microbiome. I have a really great friend locally here who is an expert on the microbiome. She's amazing. Her name's Emily Nielsen. She's one of my friends here on Facebook, or I can post her link down below to her website because she's awesome. I go to her with questions all the time about clients. So she helps me out, points me in the right direction when I don't quite know the answer. So those are really great pieces of information. Now, another situation that might happen in causing you to get sick a lot of times, make sure you check with your doctor if you're on a prescription medication. There are some medications that do lower your immune system. Missy says that gut health is so important. Yes, it is. And we're going to talk about it in a second, because I think people they don't put enough importance on that. So we're going to talk about that. But there are some medications that do lower the immune system. So, talk with your doctor, make sure that isn't causing part of your issue. Maybe there's some things that you can do with that. We are going to talk about the healthy, easy ways, things that aren't going to cause any issues to help support your immune system. But, sometimes that medication can really wreak havoc on your system and cause some issues with that as well. Yes, Missy. So I'm sure that because I know you're a healthcare professional as well, that our guts are our second brain. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But okay, so another issue that can come is how often you come in contact with toxins and environmental. We're just starting to learn more about the fact that even the lotions and things that we put on our skin and the toothpaste that we use can contain toxins and become a problem, because your body doesn't know what to do with it. So it's fighting one thing, and then it realizes there's some bacteria, so it's fighting two things. And your immune system can actually get very overwhelmed when you have all of these things kind of attacking you at once. So pay attention, make some smart choices. If you know that it's probably not your best option, you might stay away from it. Same thing with drugs and alcohol. You think that those are common sense, but sometimes we get a little zealous when it comes to how often, how much we drink, and then that can, put another stressor on your body. So just be smart about that one. Another one that we don't normally think about, just a side shoot or an offshoot here, is that I know as we get older, our immune system can be a little bit more on the downside. Part of that a lot of times comes from, and again, this is research, a lot of times as we age, our senior members of in our lives tend to not eat quite as much and actually can have some significant malnutrition. And part of that may come down to not being able to chew the food. I'm thinking more like our grandparents kind of a thing. And so thereby they're not getting all the minerals and vitamins, and we're gonna talk about this in nutrition in just a second, which can actually cause some malnutrition. There's a word for it, micronutrient malnutrition. Just because they eat less, they don't necessarily get all of the healthy fruits and vegetables and things. It's harder to chew, it's harder to digest, they're not as hungry. So even that, age can play a role in that as well. And like I said, our goal really is to build a very robust immune system so that no matter what we come in contact with, we can fight it off. And that actually starts when we are born. And it happens. I mean, there's some babies born cesarean that don't necessarily get those initial immune building situations. It happens. But also, I think in a day and age, we're so concerned about not allowing our children to come in contact with all these pathogens and these bacteria that we don't build up an immune system as children, and that can become a problem as well. I'm not even going to get into anything, my opinion on vaccines. That's a whole other ball game. But I don't understand why we don't use common sense on a lot of these things, and just make sure that we understand the information before we make a complete decision on that. It's really important as well. All right, so let's talk about, some of us do have some immune conditions. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis where my own body is attacking my thyroid. So there can be situations where, and I don't want to delve too deep into this to get too scientific, but there can be situations where your body is compromised because there's something going on, whether it's an autoimmune disease, there's definitely some things that can happen there, or even some medical complications where, again, your body just attacks healthy cells. So again, there's a lot to it. Just, I would say, if you have issues, get to know your body. Make sure that you have a team, right? Your support team should be your doctor, any of your specialists. If you use a nutritionist, all of those people should somehow communicate together, or at least you as the person that is concerned about your own health should be able to piece some things together and be smart about what you're doing. Really it's up to you. It would be great if all of our doctors and specialists and everybody that cared about us could sit in a room for 15 minutes and just literally have a conversation. I think we need to solve a lot of things really quickly, but that isn't the way that it works. So we really do have to be our own advocate on that one. So let's talk really quickly about poor nutrition. One of the most interesting things that I have found, like I said, I don't get sick anymore. Rarely do I get sick. And it's honestly because I'm not eating a lot of highly processed foods and a lot of garbage. You realize a lot of that stuff has a lot of additives and preservatives that our bodies treat as toxins. On top of that, if you're eating a lot of highly processed food, you're not getting the vitamins and minerals that you need in order to build a healthy immune system. So this first step in really being smart about it is eat some well-rounded, nutrition. They talk about colors of the rainbow. You need different colors of fruits and vegetables because they each contain different vitamins. So if you're getting the nutrients and the micronutrients that you need, you will have a better, more robust system. Not only that, you want to make sure that your good bacteria are thriving. And part of that is making sure that you're getting the right things that support them, such as probiotics. Do a little research. Ask your integrative nutrition specialist, somebody local to you that you trust and understands your body. I do a lot of reading because I find it fascinating. I totally geek out on this stuff these days. But I also want to make sure that I'm guiding people the right direction. Now, again, I'm a coach, so I don't know everything, and I do tend to just push people towards the expertise that knows that. But there's a lot of information, and it is a newer science that's coming out, but there's a lot of information there, a lot of good, deep information about how to support your microbiome. So don't be afraid to pay attention to that and do some reading and learn something, right? It's unfortunate that the American diet is so void of all of these nutrients that we need. If you're doing fast food, we come down to the point we just think any food's better than no food, which, yeah, I guess to an extent, but again, if you're getting even fortified food, fortified breakfast cereal is still a synthetic option. Your body's not going to use it quite the same as real food. That's what your body was designed to utilize. So the other thing I want to talk about really quick is I get a lot of clients who about a couple months into starting to clean up their nutrition and doing a little more exercise and really taking on some good, healthy lifestyle changes, start to get really sick. And this was originally my theory, and then I found complete research behind it. But you realize that as you burn off fat cells, those fat cells contain not just fat, but all of those toxins and things that have accumulated in your body that your body has to do something with, right? It's taking in this toxic stuff and your body goes, oh my gosh, it's not healthy for me, so it has to do something with it quick, and it shoves it in fat cells. So as those fat cells start to burn off and you start to empty them, those toxins get released back into your body. So now you're having to utilize your immune system to not only keep yourself healthy, but to fight off those extra toxins that you could have eaten 10 years ago. So again, there's a lot behind it. My tips are going to be fairly simple, right? You really want to be as healthy and as optimal as possible. And so number one, obviously do some exercise. There's a lot of research that shows that your body functions a lot more efficiently. You build nice, strong new cells. Although for those of us that become athletes, be careful not to overtrain. I know that's a small population. Hi, Sean. But exercise, staying moving actually helps us do a lot of building of healthy things in immune system. So keep that in mind. Number two, use a probiotic. Obviously, I don't want to get into it too much today. I'm just trying to keep it super simple, but there's a lot of information on there. Hop on there, pay attention. I know that there's supposed to be a certain amount in cultures of yogurt. That's great. Just make sure that it's a real thing, right? That it's not just something that they say, oh, yogurt has probiotics. There's a lot of fermented foods that you can be utilizing towards that as well. So do a little bit of research, do a little bit of digging, and use something that works for you. I use a multivitamin that has my probiotics built right into it because it just makes it easy. And I love it. It works great. Actually, I usually can't even tell the difference until I stop using my multivitamin, and then I totally can tell. So you just need to also make sure that you're eating a broad spectrum of nutrients. Again, make sure you've got the colors of the rainbow, fresh, whole ingredients, produce. Those are going to be where you get most of your vitamins and minerals. We talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about just making a little bit better choices. They don't have to be perfect choices, but if you haven't been eating a lot of produce, a lot of vegetables, a lot of animal proteins, you start there and then you kind of move to healthier options than that, which would be more along the lines of, okay, now I'm going to eat organic vegetables and I'm going to eat grass-fed animal proteins. So just get started. That's part of it. Obviously, the better that they're grown, the better they're going to be for you. Make healthy choices. Make sure that you're eating well, that you're eating enough. Stop smoking. All those things that can actually put a stress on the body that's going to really make it difficult for your immune system to do its job. Why would you not make it better for yourself? I find it fascinating that people get sick and tired of being sick and tired, but yet they won't stop doing some of those things that keeps causing them to feel that way. Just making sure I got everything that I wanted to talk about. There's a few supplements that will help support your immune system in general. There's different amino acids, including lysine. There's echinacea, zinc, vitamin C. But really, if you're getting enough nutrients out from your food, you're really going to have what you need, the building blocks, basically, to help your immune system do what it needs to do. So start simple, work on the basics, clean up your diet a little bit. That's going to help immensely. So hopefully that just touching on things, maybe to ring a bell or give you a couple of ideas that might help you. My goal is always to give you things that, obviously, if it's something that is a little too more complex, we want to push you in the right direction of an expert on that one. But there's a few things that are just gonna be beneficial no matter what, like eating better. There's not a downside to that. So start with those few things that you know that you have a little bit more control over. And then if that's not giving you the results that you need, then talk to somebody who is an expert in that field. All right, so hopefully I find you healthy. That's what our goal is. We want you healthy and optimal. We want you to feel good, and we want you to do good to others. So have an incredible week, you guys. There will be Meals with Melissa this Sunday at 10 a.m. I'm sure I'll find something great. I always do. So have an incredible day, you guys. Can't even talk today. Bye for now.